everybody, welcome back. So today I'm going to talk about Expedition 33 and the two endings. Now, obviously spoilers because I'm talking about the ending, but I'm going to talk about a few other things as well. So if you rush through if you've played the first ending and you've rushed through it and you haven't seen a lot of secret bosses, I might be spoiling some of that too, just to kind of get my point across. So the first ending is the ending that I started with, which was the Mayel ending, which it felt it. So the main kind of circumstances we want to get through is: are we in a fake world? Are we in a real world? Are the characters in a fake world, real world? When it comes to the family, and how many does it feel like a punishment to a character because of a side of grief? Now, for Mayel's ending, if you take it as Lumiere is a fake world and real people are drawing in this fake world to preserve their brother, son, etc., and keeping him alive as a punishment. Obviously, this is the bad ending. And when we say bad ending when it comes to video games, we're talking like bad morally, not quality. Because this was done beautifully. And there's like a bitterness to it. Because everybody's together again. Like, you have Ciel with her husband. You have Lune, it seems like, with a kid. Mayel has Gustav back, and then he has his lover back. And it feels like this typical happy ending that we're used to. And then Verso comes and starts playing the piano, and you see how sad and torn up he is and how much he does not want to be there. And then the ending scene is her like breaking apart in the painting world. So that ending doesn't stop this cycle of grief, which this is a very weird story and a very weird game when it comes to villains, which is something like I like to focus on, because if you have a good villain, if you have a very, very good written villain that tears me to pieces, makes me question everything, you got a good story. In my opinion, because that's who I'm focusing on. I'm not focusing on the good guys unless you write the good guys really, really well. But Renoir, obviously you have the painters, and we'll kind of get into her in a minute. But I want to talk about Renoir for a second here. His main objective is to end the cycle of grief. And the paintress represents the denial of grief and the denial of giving up her son. Like, she creates this world and she's like, my son is going to live forever in this, and I'm not going to escape because I can't live with the idea that my son is dead. So if you put it that way, if you're looking at it through Mayel's point of view, Renoir's the bad guy, the paintress is the good guy. So if we flip that, we'll get to that in a minute. But that's where this story is really, really interesting, because I don't think either parent is necessarily wrong. I don't think the paintress in some ways is wrong for not wanting to give up her son. If you've ever experienced grief in your life, you understand that whole, I just want to hold on to you as long as possible. I don't want you to die right now. And it's like a representative of this level of shock that we all go through when we lose somebody like that. Especially if it's so quick. Usually if it's like a slower, like Mandarin, like you know it's gonna come. The shock is a little bit less, and I feel like you go through, like you're already going through those processes of grief. Where when it's something like a fire, which is what Verso dies in, it's so quick. And I'm gonna kind of get into CL's kind of grief too, because I think this kind of represents this whole thing of she hasn't accepted her husband's death either. And she's like, well, and this is kind of where her charactership kind of goes down a little bit, because she would rather have Verso live in this like dungeon of his soul than to let him go and not ever see her husband again. I mean, obviously they don't know what's gonna happen. Like, it's, if you play it as like whichever love story you choose, I think really represents something like, okay, are we in it for the long haul? Because I always played the CL. I played it both times I did the CL love story, because I love her more. I feel like she's such a good soul. She's so vibrant. Like she's somebody, like if I was in Verso's, body, and that's who I would pick. So I picked her both times. I didn't pick Lune because I felt for her when we got to a certain point, which I will get to kind of when I am starting to talk about the Verso ending. But so if you go to, like, if you read it as Mael's point of view of the situation, you want CL to be happy. It's not necessarily a bad ending for the parties that are in Luminaire. Like, it's like this storybook ending for those characters. And in some ways they feel so real when you're playing through it, until you kind of get to a point with the fake epilogue is what they're calling it, so I'm going to call it too, when you finally go back to the real world France. And there is probably a question to that, and I have a theory. But I'm going to get kind of into that when we get to the Verso ending. Yeah, so we don't know very much when it comes to the outside world, minus what that was. And that didn't really answer a lot of questions. Like, I swear, that didn't answer a lot of questions. And then you come back to the game. You're getting into the Verso ending. Now, a couple of things that I'm going to pull into this is the factor of the side bosses or the secret bosses, which is a lot of the family. So you have Alicia. Oh my goodness, what is her? Okay, the older sister, and then you have Simon. So so these are 3 trapped souls that are painted, that I'm guessing, it seems like the paintress has created them, but I think the older sister created herself, and I think this is the painted version of her. And then the painted version of her met Simon and fell in love with him, is my idea. Okay, so like I said with the Mael ending, is that Verso is very upset about having to stay alive. So the Verso ending is based off of the soul being free and everybody being free to go move on. So the first boss I'm going to talk about is Alicia's. You climb this whole tower and the villains are very the minions kind of things, the painted creatures. I cannot think of their name right now. I do apologize. The Necromans. They are very childlike. They have they remind me of like you put like a paper bag over your head and you like run around like that during Halloween time. That's what they kind of remind me of. They're very childlike. They have this kind of innocence to them. And you can beat them down in 2 seconds if you have characters built up, which I did by this point. So you're fighting up this tower, and it's very inventive. Like they have like hot air balloons, and like the creatures are creating stuff. Like it was like a really fun kind of explorer area to go through. Like I was kind of having like a really good time looking through this area. And then you finally get to Alicia and she's painting. Now, Alicia was in the fire. Verso saves her. She cannot speak. She loses her ability to speak, and this is kind of where I hate her older sister because I just cannot. But the fight with her is like fighting yourself. Because you play it as Mael. Mael is, I think Mael is like the painted version, and the Alicia is like the real version. And they have a fight, and you can tell it's just like she just wants to have one last battle. Like I think she's doing it as a good time. Like I don't, like, you can kind of see the smile on her face, like, she's having a good time battling herself. Like, it's a fun time for her. And then, when she asks Mael to kill her, or Gamage her, Verso loses it. I think, the thing is, when you're playing through this, obviously, like, you're not at the ending yet. You're not playing this as you've done the ending. It's like, you're playing this right before you fight Renard for the last time. So these characters, like, Verso's seriously sitting there watching his sister die, thinking, I'm going to have to spend eternity by myself. And it hurts, but it's starting to get to the point where we're playing with the idea of that freedom of the soul. And I don't think that's something that a lot of games or even a lot of stories play with, is the fact of immortality, unless you're talking about vampires. And I feel like vampires is like a total different thing. A lot of them choose their life, and then they can just like jump on a stake at any time and, whatever. Or they can go into the sunshine. There's a lot of ways that they can finally die. The only way that I can tell that these characters can die is if the creator themselves is able to Gamage them and then their soul is set free. So we get to the older sister. And her battle is a nightmare. I had to trick the system because, like, she brains out all the neurons. And it's a really hard battle. and then she heals, and it's just it's too much for me to. But she is interesting because, and this is something I didn't get to read Simon's journal yet because of the factor that I can't beat him to save my life. I've gotten to like the second phase. There's a third phase. I can't beat him yet, and I'm moving on with video games right now. I might go back and try to see, but as of right now, he can stay in his hole. But yeah, she's just. I don't feel like her soul is as much as anybody else's. Like, because she's still in the outside world is pretty put together. She's like the only one that I feel like has just accepted how things are and is like, I need my family back so we can fight the Riders. Now, this is kind of where I'm going to get to the idea of how if you accept that the family is real. Because what I am thinking, and why the Riders did this to the painters, is the painters are not real. I think they're written in somehow, and they were trying to escape maybe. And they were trying to escape into another world. So the Riders were trying to destroy the painters in that way. Would be my theory. A working theory, unless we get DLC or a second game, which I know DLC is coming. I don't know what the DLC is going to be like. I'm hoping it's this extension. And please, for everything holy, please do not make me replay this game a third time to get the DLC, because no thank you. I love the game, but I've done everything. I don't want to play it for a third time to get the DLC. So it is. So if that's the case, then the painters destroyed their paintings and destroyed this whole world that they created. And potentially even like kind of fake real people killing fake real people. Like, and if you came to that conclusion, then like everything's bad. But that's like the whole thing is if the painters and the Riders are real people. Like, we're in 1805 France or whatever year we're in, and this is a real war going on, and it's between two real families or people or groups. I'm guessing there's more painters, there's more Riders. Like, this is going to be a big, huge thing if they decide to continue with the story, or if they decide they just want to do a DLC and be done. But then Mael's story kind of makes sense a little bit. Now, should people be trapped in if they don't want to live? No. And I think that is kind of the thing with the Immortals, that this family that's in the painting is that they feel so trapped. And then you have Simon, that to me is a victim of all of this because of the factor that he falls in love with the older sister and kills the Neveron, and then is like made into an immortal creature. I'm thinking out of punishment, without knowing his story. I wish in some ways that the only real, we get Alicia's story and we get Mael's story, and we get that connection. I would have liked to know a little bit more about Simon and then fought him. He's trapped in like this underground like cave and seems like he can't escape. So I can understand why he's like, I'm done. And then it's the same with the older sister. Like, the older sister's like, I don't have my Simon. Like, so it's like they're trapped with this like mistake of everybody's. So so once how Verso's ending ends is we go back to France and they finally do the burial. They seem like they've accepted it. And then Mael sees all the painting people. And we have a labyrinth. And I'm heartbroken because that always gets me at the end. But that whole thing is the grief cycle is broken. They can move on, work with, deal with the writer's situation, which I think is what the DLC is going to be. I think the Verso's ending is the ending that the people that wrote this game, that's going to be the canon ending. I don't see them going through the Mael ending. I don't think that's actually a canon ending. I think it's too fantastical for a game that's, very fantastical, but for what the point that they're trying to make is, which is, you're breaking that cycle of grief for this family. I think the Verso ending is the canon ending and is the correct ending. Now, is it sad that we have to say goodbye to the painted world? Yeah, because we fall in love with these characters as players, and it's not the best ending that we wanted for the majority of the people that are in this painted world. Like, it's not what we wanted, but that's the ending that we got. And that's the whole thing. Is I like that both endings in a way are bad. It's not happy. And I don't know if I always mention Persona. I just do. Persona usually, this is what makes Persona 3 kind of an interesting title versus the other two, is that there's not really a good ending. I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's not really a good ending. So I don't know if Expedition 33 brought that into play when they were thinking about their endings, or if this was just something that they were like, yeah, it's grief. Like, nothing's gonna be happily ever after. And I'm like, I'm kind of okay with that when it comes to, this whole thing. Because Life is Strange, which is another, I think they are Square Enix, but they're like the French side of it. I know it was developed in another country. Sorry, guys. Also has some weird endings and stuff. So I just think it's a different way of looking at the quote unquote good and bad ending. I think in a lot of ways, like, they could have just done one ending. Like, they could have just done, you don't choose, you play as Verso, and you have that ending. And I would love to take a survey of, like, who picked Mael's ending and who picked Verso's ending. Because of the factor of, I think it says a lot about people what they first pick and what you think, who you think is correct in this circumstance. And I think part of it is the characters that you fall in love with. Like, if you fall in love with Lune and if you do her storyline, I would think that you would probably be more on Verso's side. And then if you pick CL, like, you're probably more like, I want her to have her husband back. So you pick the Mael ending. I mean, obviously you don't know, but, like, you know, keeping everybody alive, like, you know. And I think it's that battle of what is real. And without really knowing, my phone's about to die, guys. Without really knowing what the writers are doing, like, I can't really tell you if I'm even correct. And I think that's something that, sorry guys. Okay. That's something that we're going to have to learn about later. I'm hoping we get some DLC. I think we don't need a whole second game. I think we just need a DLC to conclude this. I think unless they're going to get a little bit more deeper into each of the artist's stuff. So, like, okay, Verso was a musician. Okay, what's that about? Because his parents were really mad about that. Why? And then you have the writers. So they're doing something. And you could have, like, pottery. Like, we could go really into this. I really hope that they don't. Like, I think just having the battles between the writers and the painters, and then maybe something with the magicians, just because Verso says something, could be interesting. A 3-way war between the three of them. And then we don't have photography in this world yet. So, and I think that would be even a different battle, because you're taking a picture of a single event. So it could be really interesting if they want to add more. I think a DLC will be fine. And then they can come up with another concept. I know they're going to be very much capable of coming up with extremely weird concepts. I don't think they have to stay in this Expedition 33 world. I think they can definitely go somewhere else. But if they want to do, like, a kind of a trilogy, I think having, so we went through the painters, then we do the writers, and then we do the magicians, and then at the end of the third game we have the bag battle, would be my best guess of how, if they want to stay with this world, how that would go. But anyways, thank you for coming down. If you like this content, I am hoping to get back to my Thursday, Saturday, Sunday schedule. And like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I am trying to come back. It's been a really hard couple of months with work and just kind of with life in general. I had one weekend I had a double Metallica concert and a wedding all at the same weekend. So I'm hoping now that hopefully my life will slow down a little bit. I can get more videos out to you. We can have better discussions. And yeah, hoping to come back to a vengeance. So by like probably really early fall, I'm back to my normal schedule. But anyways, like and subscribe. I'm gonna go for now, but thanks for coming. Bye.